There we go. We've just hit the live and we're starting. We're fashionably late as per usual. So, welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children over the age of drinking, legal drinking age. There we go.
Depending on
Today I'm doing a live review only because I have someone that's on the other side of North America that was willing to help me out with this review. We've been trying to do this for a very long time. Thankfully, these bottles do not go down. So yes, I can introduce him as Shibby or the man behind the mask or his real name, which I don't know if he wants to share or not. But I want to say thank you for joining me and thank you for suggesting this. It's been 9 years in the making where we've actually not talked to each other face, well, I guess live, and we've
yeah,
done all sorts of stuff together. So yes, welcome.
yes, thank you. And you can say my real name. It's Chris. It's fairly common. Chris's have essentially taken over the Marvel universe.
They have. I was trying. They did a quiz the other day, and they're like, "Oh, which Chris is this? Which Chris?" I'm like, "Right, there's like 3 or 4 Chris's in the Marvel universe." Damn.
What's funny is it's the same at the office I work in. Like there's me and two other Chris's, but the best is we always have to put the first letter of our last name whenever we're talking about it, or addressing people. But it's funny whenever we get a new person into the office. Usually, me and one of the other Chris's will go up to them at the same time and then try to speak in unison. Hello, my name is Chris. Welcome. Sort of do a shining twins thing on them.
Just to see how much they can creep him out. I'm impressed. Speaking of shining twins, we've got one that beer that actually is interesting. Again, you suggested this, and I thought, yeah, I'll go out and get it. Now we know the issue with founders, and we're not going to dwell on that at all because A, I spent a lot of money on this beer, and B, we'll deal with that another time. But
Yeah.
as you suggested, we were going to do founders the better half, and it's a barrel aged beer. Let's see,
An
an
old
old
ale.
ale brewed with molasses and aged in maple syrup bourbon barrels. I'm kind of scared but excited for this. What's the expiry date of yours?
Uh, let's see. I don't. Trying to find where there is an expiration date. I
There
have
should.
I have the bottle date. It was bottled 8/14/2018. I'm not really seeing an expiration date.
Hmm. Where was yours showing that it was bottled on?
On the back label, like around the middle of the label, it says bottled on, and then it also has the ABV right underneath it.
So does yours say 12.7%?
Yes, it does. So it's going to be a happy day.
Yeah, see, mine has expiration date on it, and it's August 13th, 2019.
Well, we're still getting in well ahead of the curve there.
Yes. All right, well, let's get this sucker opened up and let's have a quick look and see what we got. Oh, I didn't use my founder's glass for this. Boy.
It's okay. I think they'll forgive you. They got other things to worry about anyway.
Usually, yes. Holy crap, that is a lot of carbonation coming off of that.
Yeah, a good amount of head too. I'd say little, at least on mine, a little over a finger's worth of head on there. Oh, okay. Well,
I got
different glasses, maybe that's the reason why. I don't know. I got the
probably.
tulip glass going here.
Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of head on there. Good thing I like my head. Anyway,
I won't touch on that one.
I didn't think so. So
That's what she.
there it is.
Yeah.
So as we see, we've got it's basically translucent. It's got a good copper color to it. Yours has a deeper copper because of your glass. Um, the head, as you said, is well, mine's retaining its head on there. I don't know if yours is or not.
Yours is about a fistful of head,
Just a little bit.
just a little bit.
The smell on it, definitely getting those barrel wooden notes off there.
Yep. Some maltiness as well. Don't really smell much of the maple or even the bourbon.
Nope. Did you have a lot of carbonation coming off yours?
Uh, yeah, well, I mean, when I look at it, there's definitely a fair amount of bubbling going on down there. So yeah,
Okay, at least I'm not the only one. I thought there might have been something in my glass that's causing that. So it's not that; it's actually the ale. So
yeah. There's mine also looks like there's a slight haze to it. Like there's some bits in there.
yeah, I got nothing on the bottom here, so I don't know if mine will have that or not.
And again, it's
Well,
like it's got this back in the fall, so it's been aging for a bit.
yes, it has, and we have another one that we're going to be doing another time that's aging still. Good
How
thing that.
old can an old ale get?
Well, that's a good question. I guess what I guess it can get up to 2019 on mine. So
Mine is, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's something where since they're distributing this in Canada, maybe Canada requires an expiration date, whereas the US doesn't. Because, yeah, looking at mine, there's no expiration date.
is there a series of numbers beside it, beside the bottled on?
Yeah, like 0443 and then space and six. So
Okay, because I got 02346, so it's probably different batch numbers.
probably that'd be my best guess.
Works for me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna get into this. Cheers for the first time meeting live.
Cheers.
There's that maple.
I'm
Oh,
definitely getting more of the booziness and the bourbon than the maple, though.
I'm getting the sweetness of the maple. I'm getting the booziness. Um, ooh, that aftertaste is delightful.
Bit
That's
of almost dry, dark fruit, like little fruitiness in there.
a little bit of like a plum and I'll almost say prune in a way.
Yeah.
Still good.
Mm-hmm. See, the two biggest breweries in Michigan when it comes to popularity seem to either be Bell's or Founders. I think my wife put it best when she said Bell's is like the reliable dad who's married with two kids and has a golden retriever, whereas Founders is the rebel uncle who roars up to your house in a vintage Harley fixed up himself and yells, "I've seen some shit."
I could believe that. I really could believe that because the way these guys brew, they have seen some shit. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's like, Bell's definitely love their Oberon. And that, like, so that's like almost like she was saying, the reliable one. You can always just be like, this is going to be good no matter what. But then you always see all these the different barrel ages, especially that Founders has been doing. This one, the KBS, the CBS, even they did one for their Scotch Ale, Dirty Bastard. They have a barrel aged one called Backwoods Bastard.
Ooh, I think did I see the I did do the backwards bastard.
I know you did the Dirty Bastard. You
Okay, yep.
probably did do the Backwards as well.
I can't remember. I've done so many beers, it's scary.
I know if I tried to take all of your videos and just put it on a playlist and click play, it'd probably take a couple days to go through them all.
hmm It would. Well, yeah, that's if you actually stayed up and watched them all. Yeah, okay, no, I haven't done the backwards bastard because I remember that there's a wizard on there.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a serial killer looking Gandalf because he's got like an axe or whatever kind of slung over his back.
Yep. Yeah, no, there's another one that actually just showed up here, and I was tempted. It's the rose one.
Rose one. Let's see. This is a Founders as well.
Yep.
Was it the Blushing Monk?
Um, I don't
Because I
know.
because I know, like, let's see, Founders, they have their I believe it's called Rubius, which is like a raspberry fruit beer, and then sort of almost like a souped up or barrel aged version of that is Blushing Monk.
Well, it's not blushing monk.
Hmm.
Let's see
Well,
if I can find it because
maybe
I, I
that's something.
I saw it today at my the beer shop I go and visit, and that would be Collective. Um, I'm just trying to remember what it is. 2 seconds here because it came in a bottle. Oh, to be announced. Ah, there we go. Oh, maybe. Oh, I guess it might be the blushing monk.
Okay. I have had that one. That like this and all their other barrel aged stuff, which and I'm not entirely sure if that one's barrel aged, but it definitely carries with it a kick.
It's on under their barrel aged series, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, it's
They
a
have
limited. That's what it is.
oh, okay.
Belgian style ale brewed with raspberries.
What's fun is that the new ice arena that the Red Wings play at, literally like maybe a block over, is a Founders satellite brewery. So right after going to a Wings game or any other event there, because I've been to more other hockey events like college hockey, and then there was that rivalry series between the U.S. and Canada women's. Um, could just like then walk across the street, and while you're waiting for traffic to clear out, just be like, "Oh, just order a beer."
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I
No, that actually helps out because traffic around there is insane since they put like every sports arena right next to each other. So you have the hockey and basketball stadium, then you have the football stadium, and then you've got the baseball diamond right there.
Geez, I don't know if I could even. Well, I could fathom because we only have a little bit, but I can't because Detroit's population is huge compared to Calgary.
Yeah.
That
Who
and they
knows? It
love
might be
their
getting
hockey
bigger
and.
too.
Sorry?
I said it might be getting bigger too because, climbing back up slowly but surely.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. I mean, like the automotive department out there took a hit, so it's good to see that things are picking up again.
Yep, definitely. It's it's something I've actually been able to see firsthand. Just like I don't live in Detroit, I live probably about 20 some odd miles north of Detroit. But that's the one thing when you're from Southeast Michigan, people be like, "Where are you from?" And you'll say the city name, and they'll be like, Then you'll name off all the cities around it. People will be like, Then you just go, "Detroit. I'm from Detroit." That's why we say Metro Detroit because that's like encompassing all the suburbs and towns probably within Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, you could say you're from Airdrie or Okotoks here, or they'll be like, "What?" And you say, "Just outside of Calgary."
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like I think of I've got in-laws who live in Illinois, and I stop and I'm just like, okay, aside from Chicago, what else is there? So I'll just be like, they're in a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah. No, it's I've never been there. Well, of course, the furthest east I've been is Medicine Hat, Alberta. That's it.
Hmm.
I've not really traveled, and I've been to the States once or twice, but that's to Seattle and to Anaheim. So it's
I'm trying to think of the furthest west I've been was Spokane, Washington. That though, let's see, that was last year, and that was just simply flying into the airport and then immediately getting into a car and driving into Idaho to go skiing at the Schweitzer Resort in like the northern panhandle.
God, you were close to us. You could have gone a little bit more north, and about 90 to an hour and a half later, you would have been pretty much in Calgary.
The thought had crossed my mind, and then I actually looked at what the travel time would have been, considering you're going through the mountains and everything. And I was like, since we paid all this money for a ski trip, I don't, I don't think we'll have the time to,
To make it there and
venture
back.
off the beaten path.
True, and then you have to go through customs twice, and that would just suck.
Yeah, I don't. I've learned a few things going through customs, even just going from Detroit to Windsor. Like there's over in Windsor, there's the Walkerville Brewery, which our mutual acquaintance Paulie used to work at. The lead singer from Stone Clover. And I remember I went over there to go on a tour of the brewery one time, and I went by myself. Apparently, nothing is more suspicious to customs agents, at least actually getting in to Canada and then coming back to the US, than saying, I went to go take a brewery tour by myself. Because they are going into Canada. I said, where are you going? I'm going to the Walkerville Brewery. Well, why are you going there? I want to take a tour of the brewery. And then they look at me and they go, by yourself? Yes. Do I need to be accompanied? And I ended up getting my car searched. And then when I came back to the US and I basically gave the exact same story, the custom agent went, by yourself? So apparently, drinking by yourself or going to a brewery by yourself is suspicious.
Well, I mean,
Or I just have that demeanor.
well, you are from the States. I mean,
Hey, I've got people in my office, one person in particular, every time she sees me, I could even just be working. She just walks by and goes, what are you up to? I say, working. You look suspicious. I
yeah,
think
just
you're
don't go.
being paranoid. And then I put the scissors away.
And be like, don't go in your office quite yet.
I actually had my boss look at me. We went to nearby us, we have an axe throwing bar because, axe throwing and booze, best combination.
Hmm.
We actually went there as part of like employee appreciation day. So I'm there with all my coworkers and I'm doing pretty good at axe throwing. And so my boss sees that and says, I think I need to relocate my office.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Jeez. Ah, it's a lot of fun with doing stuff around there. Hey, look, my head's gone down. Oh wait, hang on. That's what she said again. Uh,
Uh, too many head jokes.
well, when you have beer, you have head. When you have head, you have jokes.
Touche, touche, sir.
So I have to say, even with what's going on with Founders, I do really enjoy this beer. This is actually a really delightful beer. Um, I can't fault it really for anything. It's got a smooth taste. The mouthfeel is creamy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
The flavor, like as soon as you get past that initial swallow, it actually mellows out quite a bit because that initial swallow, you get hit with the alcohol, the bourbon, and part of the sweetness of the maple syrup. And I really don't think they're using Canadian maple syrup or real maple syrup for that matter, but that's just me. I'm not biased or
Yeah,
anything.
we actually do have a lot of decent maple syrup farms in Michigan.
Yeah, but you don't have Quebec maple farms where they really treat their maple. Well, I'm
I,
pretty
I,
sure.
can't, I can't argue with that. It's I I think Michigan's probably it was still ranked below Canadian maple syrup, but for the U.S., it's definitely better than Mrs. Butterworth's.
Yes. Well, I mean, come on. Even store-bought brand maple syrup's better than Mrs. Butterworth's.
This is true.
But no, I mean, it's really delicious. I mean, I've gone through this quite quickly, even though it's a 350 mil, or sorry, 12 ounce. I think it's down in your neck of the woods.
Uh, yes, 12 fluid ounces if you want to use the messed up American way of measuring. Just like how if I said right now the temperature around me is probably around 40 degrees.
So that would be about 5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, something like that. What's nice that even though when you first poured and it seemed like there was a fair amount of carbonation, it dissipates pretty quickly and it's much more smooth. It doesn't taste that carbonated.
No, and I'm starting to see those floaties you were talking about because they're actually starting to settle a little bit. So,
Mm-mm.
but that's not a bad thing. Overall, I really do enjoy this beer. It's actually, but for the price tag, I think it was like 850 for this bottle Canadian. So I'm not sure what it is there. So
I think it was about. I see. I got to remember. And of course, I removed the price tag after I bought the beer because I made sure only to buy a single. But I think it was about like 430 US, maybe five, somewhere around the $4 to $5 range.
so about the same price overall after imports and fees and taxes and stuff. So
Yeah, definitely one I'm glad that I tried, but not with the price tag. Not necessarily sure if I would go to this one on a consistent basis. Which, well, considering it's a special barrel aged release, unless you go and buy a huge stock of it, you really can't.
this is true. No, this is very, and I mean, they say that it expires 2019, but it was almost like the CBS that I had. It expired in 2018, and it still was good. The next, like, about 4 to 6 months afterwards. Of course, I also had the
Hmm.
one that actually had the Mountie still on it because they're not allowed doing that anymore.
Well, I didn't buy it this year, but the previous year is when I got mine, and yeah, they still had the Mountie on that one. Another one I enjoyed, but I enjoy the KBS more than the CBS. The CBS I thought was just a little too much or
Hype.
too sweet. Well, a little too much hype, but a little too sweet. No, nowhere near as sweet as I think the sweetest one I've had is that Saugatuck blueberry pancake one.
Oh,
It's it is delicious, but it's definitely more of like a dessert beer that you can probably only have one of, and that's it. Like it's not something you'd be going, okay, another, just keep them coming because you feel like you're going to get a cavity or more.
well,
Diabetes is going to.
when I had that one, and I'll be honest, because I did have it, they actually brought it up here. And quick shout out to Peter there saying, "Hey, we actually have someone in chat. It's about time." Uh, it's I had that one and I found it underwhelming because it didn't have the flavors that I was expecting, like the maple syrup or having like a batter flavor or anything else like that. Granted, up here sometimes when they bring them up here, they're already old and stale, and then they keep them in the warehouse for a bit and then they sell them. So that could have been the case, and it was also what 4 years ago I think I had it. So we
Hmm.
were still early in our craft beer phase up here.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to go straight to the source when I was on the west side of the state where Saugatuck is, and yeah, just got it on tap at the brewery. And it was awesome because the brewery is right next door to an antique store, which I love rummaging around those things. It's like, go get a beer and then go to an antique store.
And try not to come home
Or
with the thing.
uh No, that's impossible. I'll usually come home with something,
Well, I
whether
mean,
it be for myself or usually I'll send a picture to my brother, who sometimes I feel like might be on an episode of Hoarders one day. Though to his credit, he gets a lot of stuff, but with the intent to sell it. So he's sort of like maybe more storage wars would be the better thing.
yeah, but there's the intent and there's the actual able to sell it. I mean, that's two different things altogether. But not mocking your brother because I haven't met him yet. I
That's okay.
probably
I'll mock him.
I'd probably do the same
But
thing.
he's
And
my brother.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking around my office right now. I'm like, oh look, I've got the dude still in his package. I've got a Megadeth poster that I probably sell. I've got a lot of things that's like, yeah, when I pass away, there's gonna be people going, what the fuck was he collecting this shit for?
I mean, heck, I got all this stuff just here, and if I had panned the camera down, you'd see even more stuff. And that's just in this room.
Well, I mean, I
So,
can always pull this down because I am the two-time champion, and that's not happening this year. But
well, you know what? Well, this is just for best goalie. I've got my Vesna there. Man behind the mask. I had to have something. Well, I've also got a few others. If I really needed to, though. Oh, whoops! Did I just give away the fact that we each have one?
yeah, you did. Spoilers, folks. We actually knew what we were doing with this one. If you haven't seen the show, Man Behind the Mask show of Let's Talk About Hockey, we did a playoff series every year, and we started doing videos about winning the cup and actually sharing the cup. The great thing about this was is we both had the same cup, even though we live on opposite sides of pretty much North America, and it pretty much worked out to our benefits, sending out videos to each other and getting them all done. Movie magic, my friends, movie magic.
Yeah, this is probably the most fluid conversation we've ever had on camera simply because we're doing it live. All the others were trying to script things ahead of time and then hoping that the way you recorded it and the way I recorded it like meshed well.
And it did. I mean, it did. Of course, like having you talk and doing all this knowledge about hockey, and then having me talk, going, "Yeah, I like the team because I think they're going to win." It was like
Uh,
that was the whole
Unfortunately,
mesh.
you're dealing with someone who's a very big like math and numbers person professionally. I'm an accountant, so like yeah, I'm gonna look at all that stuff. But since I also like look into the history of things so much, then I was like, well, but then just looking at their past history, trying to touch on some of the intangibles, whereas you're just like, I got a feeling, whether it be my head, my heart, or in some cases my gut, which at this point might be the beer.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's and you know what? Ultimately, I guess that served you a little better because you were able to win, two in a row the last couple of years we did that.
Well, in all honesty, it was back and forth. I'm not gonna deny that. And having it win two in a row, and then you retiring afterwards, it helped me out because you probably would come around and beat my ass one way or another. But who
Well, you know what? We
knows?
can find out. We can find out again this year because I mean, won't really do a video, but we can maybe do just like a written blog like we did for most of the playoffs that very first year, where I wish I did a video for all those because that was the year where I only got one series wrong. Oh, sorry, two series wrong. And I was just like, oh,
To
I was
have
this
that
close to
recorded.
winning a betting pool. Huh?
To have that recorded, that would have been awesome.
I mean, I still have excerpts from the blog that we did, um, but to actually have that recorded, aside from the last video where I just said, oh, I predicted like however many series out of the playoffs, right? And it's just like, well, they're sort of just taking my word for it because most likely they weren't reading the blog beforehand.
Yeah, and it was one of those ones where the okay, we'll do the blog, write it up, do that. it was like, okay, maybe next year we'll do a video. Yeah, we'll do a video each round. And
Oh,
yeah.
that, that was the only reason why I was able to even do that is because I was unemployed at the time.
hmm I get that.
Because I was unfortunately still living in my parents' house and unemployed at the time because I had just been laid off. So yeah, I was able to actually go in their basement and record those segments since we had to like release it within a few hours of like the last game ending.
And that was something that, God, I'll be honest, I don't ever want to do that again.
No, that's why the next year I was just like, let's just do the prediction video and then a recap at the end. It was so much easier.
It was, and it actually worked out well because that was the year we had the flood in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, we're a little bit delayed because this dumbass had to go and have a flood in his city and be all, you know. So it's,
Well, even more so because I was in a transitional period because earlier before the playoffs, maybe a few months before, I had moved about 600 miles north to Michigan's Upper Peninsula, like the westernmost part. Um, and that's actually where I filmed the prediction video. Was at the house we were renting up there, but then we were my wife and I had moved. Actually, at the time, fiance, our wedding wasn't until right after the recap video. We moved back down to the Detroit area, so it was like if we had tried doing it round by round, I would not have been able to manage that.
no, because I remember you talking to me about this. Like, I'll be a little bit late. I'm moving. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. I've got a flood here, so we're okay.
I remember actually looking at the editor's note I put on the recap video that just said like, here's all the things going on with both of us. In addition to the fact that he lives in Calgary and I live in Michigan,
I
like
mean,
a
we
2 hour.
yeah, there's 2 hours difference, and I have to admit, like you and I actually held that together quite nicely. I'm not going to deny that. That was something that both you and I were like, okay, if we can't get it done, we can't get it done, but we're going to try and do the best we can. Throw our scripts together. Here's what I've got. Here's what I've got. And your editing skills made me actually look a little bit better than what I had on camera because, oh God, if I actually recorded all those outtakes I had, man, it would have been horrible.
Unfortunately, on YouTube, I think this was one of the 2012 playoff videos. It might have been a recap of like the first round. This was one where I did an all-nighter editing, and because the games got over that late, and since we were doing predictions in addition to the recap, it was like film everything, get the stuff from you, and then I had to edit it all together. I actually forgot to cut out an outtake, so you see me like start a segment, then all of a sudden stop, and then go like this, which someone commented saying it looks like you're waving a fart away, which I'd always do that just to kind of almost be like a slate, like, okay, cut
Yep.
here. And but I was so tired because it was like 3 in the morning when I was editing it that I forgot that I just looked at the beginning of the segment and thought that was the whole thing and didn't go a little further and realize I messed up. So that is forever in the YouTube video.
You know what? That works beautifully. And it took us, what, 5 to 6 years to realize that, hey, Google Drive, we'll just drop it in there where we don't have to throw it onto YouTube, put a like a video up, send you the link, you upload it, and then redo it again. And it made me look so small while you had this perfect video. I'm like looking at this really cheesy video. I'm like, yeah, Google Drive would have been our best friend if we learned about that earlier.
To be fair, when did Google Drive even come about? Because I feel like when we first started, that wasn't even necessarily a thing yet.
No, but it came in about 3 years later, if I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, hey, we may not be the quickest, but we're old.
Speak for yourself. Oh,
But
no, wait. No, I am older than you. Shit. Never mind.
yeah, it's like My dad used to run a construction company, and he actually one year made joke T-shirts for the company that said, "We're not good, but we're slow."
I can see that, and you're consistent.
Consistently slow, yes.
Yep, that works. So unfortunately, yes, as you've mentioned, we're not doing that prediction and video this year. Um, though I've got a feeling that as much as I want to say it, Tampa Bay's been on a terrible run. I don't think they're going to make it to the finals, though.
Nope. I will cite historical precedents here. Detroit, 95-96. They won a record 62 regular season games, knocked out game six of the third round of the playoffs. I'm actually a part of this like hockey sort of chirp group on Facebook, and there's this one guy who was a big Tampa Bay fan who kept on posting how Tampa Bay is just gonna dominate everybody. There's no one who can stand up to him, but he would make these comments and then turn off the ability to comment on his comments. And so I just had to make a post saying, you know what? The President's Trophy is nice, but here's a long list of teams who've won that and then did not win the cup. And it's like, I don't know, 80% or higher of the teams that have won since that trophy was ever introduced,
Vancouver's one of them.
including Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Detroit, Pittsburgh. Yeah, a lot of them. It's uh, it's kind of one of those cases where I actually just read the book about the Russian Five, and they were sitting there going, it's sort of like we burned ourselves out during the regular season. We played all of our good hockey during the regular season, and then it's like come playoff time, you just don't really have that much left. Because even before Detroit got to the third round against Colorado in '96, they almost got knocked out by St. Louis in the second round. That took 7 games in double overtime. And that was only because St. Louis's number one goalie, Grant Fuhr, that year got injured. So they were with their backup, John Casey, who was still really good. But if they had Grant Fuhr, I don't think Detroit would have even made it past the second round.
No, no, and Grant Fuhr was high on the coke at that point in time too. I mean, Grant Fuhr's awesome. He's from Edmonton, uh, and he played for the Victoria Cougars, which makes him even more awesome.
You know what? Detroit, we had our own issue with a player that had a coke problem, Bob Probert. So
Yeah, but he was also a goon. I mean, you can't blame goons for wanting to do coke or steroids or anything else like that. They're out there to protect. I can't. Well, I guess so is the goalie to protect the net, but you know,
at the same time, and if you can ever find it, I would actually recommend watching the documentary on Bob Probert. He was a goon, but he actually had some good like offensive talent. Actually, in '88, when they made a run to the third round of the playoffs, ultimately getting knocked out by Gretzky and the Oilers. He broke one of Gordie Howe's records. I think it was like the Red Wings franchise records for points in the playoffs. So it's one of those situations where I kind of, after watching that, I look at it and go like, what if? Like, what if he didn't have these off ice problems that affected him on the ice? Like, how good could he have been? I mean, not just being like basically looked at as the heavyweight champion of brawling on the ice, but he probably could have been an offensive threat too.
hold on. That was the same year that Tiger Williams was still involved with the NHL, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Was he still with Vancouver at that point?
I
88?
do believe so. Yes. Actually, he was getting into close to retirement at that point in time. He may have been moved 88. Let me just look this up. 1988 Hartford Whalers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in 87, 88. He was with the Los Angeles Kings and then Hartford Whalers afterwards. So, yeah, the Kings
Okay.
played him for 2 games and then traded him to the Whalers where they played him for 26.
Was that his last year in the league, or did he have?
That was his last year.
Yeah, so that was honestly like that was Probert's the high point of his career in terms of more than just fighting. because he actually made the All-Star game that year, and he was, like I said, he was like the leading point scorer for the team in the playoffs. And like actually, the documentary points out that because the night before, like the pivotal game in their series against the Oilers in the third round, I guess Probert and the other kind of troublesome player on the team, Peter Klima, went out and kind of did a little too much drinking the night before this big game. So the coach, Jacques Demers, said, if you guys win tonight, it's going to be like on whatever page of, back page of the Free Press news. But if you lose, this is going to be front page headline news. Sure enough, they lost, and the headline read. This is really kicking in now.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
The headline read, Red Wing star Mrs. Kegel staying sober. So
I'm looking at this, and actually here's an interesting thing. So 84, 85, Tiger Williams played for the Adirondack, I can't pronounce that, Red Wings.
mm-hmm.
And the next year, 85, 86, Bob Probert played for them.
I'm trying to remember if that was one of the Red Wing farm teams at the time. I know if it's still around. I know it's not anymore.
It is. Red Wings, I mean, come on, it has to be.
Well, there were. I've been looking into some of the minor hockey league things for a while recently because I still, even though I don't do the video series, I still keep up with a page on Facebook. And I've been doing sort of a series where I post like the first fully professional hockey team that has been in each state. And you've had teams in like West Virginia and Pennsylvania and also just Virginia who have had the name Red Wings. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they were part of the Red Wings farm team. But that one, though, I think, yeah, was at the time.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was. I mean, it looked like Tiger Williams left the Red Wings, and then all of a sudden Probert came into it. So they traded off their goons at that point in time.
they actually drafted Probert the same year that they drafted Yzerman.
Iserman, how I miss him.
You and me both. That's why, well, and pretty much all of the Detroit population, especially the hockey fan population, which is why. Now I don't know if this will happen. And personally, I sort of feel like it's just the fan base here hoping against hope that as soon as Yzerman's contract with Tampa is up at the end of the year, that he's going to come to Detroit as like an assistant GM or GM. Most likely not,
Don't
because
do it. Don't do it.
well, honestly, it would be better than what we have right now because on the whole, the start of Detroit's decline was when Ken Holland, apparently they approached him about, or he's a current GM, they approached him about giving him a different position and moving Yzerman to the GM spot. And apparently he said no, he doesn't want to do that and wanted to stay GM. And then that was when Yzerman went to Tampa. And so a lot of people look at it that is that's when things started to go downhill. Like we could have had a chance to maybe get a fresh perspective because it's like Holland was an all-star GM back before the salary cap when you could just go up to the owners and say, here, give me a blank check and I'll give you a winning team, which is what they did in '02. I mean, we've gone back and forth about how you say Detroit bought its cups. The only one I'll ever admit to is 2002 because they basically went and got like several Hall of Famers. But you were saying the ones in the '90s, and it's just like I will respectfully disagree with the ones in the '90s
Fair enough. Of course,
because I was going to say because technically, if you think about it, every team that wins the cup technically buys the cup because they go out and spend money to get players. That's
Not naming any Edmonton names. Um, it's true, but I mean, you look at Vancouver, and they've actually worked really hard for getting the cup, even though they haven't for a very, very, very long time.
It could
It
be
was,
worse. It could be Toronto or St. Louis.
I don't know. Vancouver hasn't won since the 20s.
Well, I guess if you're counting Vancouver as a whole, I was counting just the beginning of the Canucks, which would have been 1970, which um, few years after the Blues, who've been around since 67, still haven't won it. And then Toronto, they haven't won since 67. So they're like 51, bordering on 52 years at this point.
All right, at least we're only at 40, 70, so 47, 48. 48 as of this
It
year.
took it took the Rangers 54 years between cups, 1940 to 94.
All right.
Detroit, it took 42 years, 55 to 97.
Yeah, but the
So
Canucks have reached the finals three times, and all three times they got slaughtered. Well, okay, the 2001, no, 2011
11.
series. Sorry, trying to go through my different series here. 2011, when I got my gallbladder out. That's how I remember it. Strangely, that series I was pissed off with, and of course the final game where they were losing. The first thing I said to my buddies, they're like, "We're sorry for your loss." I went, "I'm sorry for Vancouver because they'll riot." Sure as shit, they're rioting. I'm like, "Oh man, just make us into real losers, please." So they did.
If it makes you feel any better, I think it was after either the Tigers baseball team or the Pistons basketball team. I'm pretty sure it was one of the Tigers. I think maybe back in '84. There was unfortunately a riot in Detroit, and since then, Detroit has also sort of carried a stigma of that type of deal. Even though it's like we've had how many championships since then, and not a single thing's happened. I also even went to Michigan State University, which after they lost in the NCAA tournament in 1999, had rioted so bad around campus that like riot police and tear gas was deployed. And so MSU is forever associated with riots, even though when I was there, I, okay, there was one semi riotous incident that did
Do go
involve
on.
tear gas. I know how to pick where I go, right? It's just
Yep. Well, in all honesty, I mean, Game Six for the '94 series, I was in Vancouver. Game seven, I was back in Victoria and watching everybody riot. That's the first riot that happened for the hockey series. Not to say that Vancouver hasn't rioted before when Guns N' Roses canceled their concert, but that was only around the arena that they're supposed to be playing in. But yeah, I know that riot thing, and people enjoy bringing that up, and it's like, you know what? Honestly, fuck off.
it's sort of like, unfortunately, when it comes to that stuff, you do it once. Though Vancouver has had, I guess, a couple instances, at least in regards to sports or something like that. Detroit has won sports, but you also actually had back during the civil rights movement era back in the '60s. You did have a lot of race riots in Detroit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yep.
so
Yep.
unfortunately, but it really does only take one time to do something like that, and you're labeled seemingly forever, which is
Or
weird because how many like crime drama TV shows are based in New York, yet for some reason New York doesn't quite have the same stigma as Detroit.
yeah, you have New York where they have the higher population of people that like to go to Broadway shows. Detroit, you have the automotive, which is the lower end. So I guess the stigma is kind of there between New York and Detroit. Of course, if you go to Queens, that's a whole different story right there.
True, true. They're all the different sections. You got Queens, you got Brooklyn, you have Manhattan, all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I feel for you, man. I really do. Anyways, we should probably wrap this up because we're almost an hour into this. Um,
oh,
yeah, exactly. The beer that we had, what did you think of it?
uh, okay. If I were to actually give this a rating, out of five, I would give this, I'd say, maybe 3.75 or a four. Um, that's probably. I mean, overall, a good beer. I think the only thing that sort of detracts from it for me, mainly the price tag, like flavor, carbonation, all that. I found very enjoyable, and if it weren't for the price tag, I'd be like, yeah, I'd maybe get another six pack, or well, I guess in the case of the barrel age series, they really only sell them in four packs, but I get another pack of it, if it weren't so expensive.
Now here's the thing. You also said that you wouldn't earlier, but now you said you would probably if it wasn't so expensive. I'm impressed with that because it actually changed your mind throughout sipping it. For me, I like this, and as you know, I don't really do ratings, but I'll do ratings on this one because, well, we're going old school here. Why not?
Yeah,
Uh,
why not? Like I said, I'm a numbers guy, so if you ask me my opinion, I sort of have to throw a number scale in there.
I totally don't blame you for that, really. Um, what would I rate this? Well, you'll probably find me rating this on Untapped at about a 4 to 420, 4.25 because of the fact that it had all the flavors. It was a barrel aged 12.7, but it was still easy to drink. Within an hour, I finished this. I'm impressed with this, and I'm glad that I have 4 hours to go before I have to go pick up my wife from work.
I'm also glad we didn't do the second Founders beer because that I believe is an 11%. And though I may be part Irish, I don't know if my liver could handle it.
I'd be
I don't have
trashed.
enough of an Irish percentage in me.
No, I don't either, and I'd be trashed. There's no way I'd be able to do this because I'm feeling a good buzz happening right now, and I feel like this is a good medium to sort of go, okay, I'm happy with this. And again, as I said, I know that there's a lot of issues with founders and what their God, how can I put it nicely? Um, their PC, which people don't understand, it can be a gray area. Their thoughts on different PC things are. Um, I'm old, so my PC is a little bit less than a lot of other millennials out there. I would say snowflakes, but I can't. But and that's going to
Well,
get me some
okay,
hate.
I guess I would have to take an exception to that simply because technically, I guess I'm a part of the millennial generation, even though I look at myself. I was born in '84. I look at myself as like a lost generation that's kind of in between the Gen X and millennial. But
Weren't you Generation Y?
I've I don't think so, but I don't really I've actually kind of forgotten like where all the generations kind of start. So I just say I'm something else. But you know, at the same time, with like the analogy my wife threw out there about founders being the rebel uncle and everything. Well, you know what? Considering kind of the stuff that they're being accused of, that kind of still fits because usually the rebel uncle might have some, we'll say, less than PC things going on behind the scenes.
And in all honesty, I have to agree. I, I've shared things and thoughts about my father on online here, and he was not PC. At the same point in time, he was the one that was like, I'm honest, I'm truthful, and God damn it, I'm not PC. And I feel strongly for him, and I actually grew up with that. And being, you said 84, so 11 years older than you, I'm definitely one of those generations that's one of those crazy motherfuckers that sees PC as, oh my god, guys, just here, have a drink, sit back, relax. Maybe have two because, well, your thoughts need to be changed a little bit because you're getting a little bit too extreme. That's just me.
Personally, I'm sort of like in the middle of a lot of things where it's kind of like I can see certain points of view, but on both ends of the spectrum, I'm sort of like there has to be a line. But at the same time, even though I was born in '84, I grew up with a father whose favorite story to tell about me involves me being around fourth to fifth grade. I was in Boy Scouts. I was in like on a winter camporee, and I was on the was the person who was doing this cross country skiing leg of a relay race. So I had never put skis on before in my life. So I was trying to ski like you would walk. So basically, I'm not moving. So I start cursing up a storm, and a woman, not knowing that he's my father, turns to my dad and goes, I've never heard such language from a child before. Where would he learn such things? My dad looked at her and went, fuck if I know. Still to this day, his favorite story to tell about me and him, I guess, too. So
Yep, yep, yep. I mean, it's almost like with my grandma. She drove me home one day, and we were like literally meters away from pulling up into my house, and this guy rear ends us. And I've only been in a couple of car accidents, but the next thing I know, I'm sitting there trying to break out of this little small 1984 Honda Civic out of the back seat, going, "If I ever get my fucking hands on you, I'm gonna fucking rip your goddamn fucking throat off because you went and rear-ended my fucking grandma. How fucking dare you?" And then they sat there, and I stopped and I looked at myself and I went, "Oh, I'm sorry, grandma." She goes, "That's all right. I fucking know what you're talking about."
yeah,
It's one of those things where you're like, okay, yeah, you know, you've grown up in these times where there is a lot of things that may or may not have been good for humanity, for example, but at the same point in time, we learned from it, we've got it, and we might be getting into a conversation here that probably shouldn't be happening after having this one beer.
that's true. It should happen after we have the second one, right after having this one. But since we're not going to do that, I guess maybe we can shelve that for the next
That might be a good idea. All right,
time.
folks. Unfortunately, our non-PC or semi-PC buddies are going to stop because we're going to enjoy the rest of the buzz that this beer has given us. And I want to say, founders, thank you very much for bringing this up to Canada. And Chris, thank you for joining me. It's great to see that you have actually managed to get this beer. Being in Michigan, it's easy for you to get it or something. And for 9 years of not talking to each other live and sending things back and forth via email or text message or Facebook Messenger, going, oh, yeah, we're talking to each other live, but not live, and then doing these videos is actually good to finally do this on a beer review of strangely, of all things.
And I believe it's what the really old timers would have called being pen pals. Um, and then finally meeting face to face. But also, if you think about it, this is around the time we would have really started brainstorming ideas for a playoff video. So, in a sense, this is almost a year later after our last video together, getting the band back together.
This is true, and you know what? I've got to show you something here. Just because I can, and you know how I said I was going to do that video a while ago? I still have it.
Ah,
I
that's
was
right.
going to do that video and I didn't get a chance to do it. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'll have time, but if I do, this beer right here, even though it is, wait, hang on. Best by September 28th, 2018. I was going to do it to an entourage or a bunch of clips of our whole series that we did together while drinking a Fade to Black. I never got a chance to do that, but right here, that was for that.
Well, hey, better late than never, as our playoff series constantly proved. Considering how many times there'd usually be a little note saying apologies for how late this, at least the recap one. Because the other ones, when we did predictions, those were the only ones time sensitive.
Yeah, the
The
other ones are like,
recaps was just like, oh,
we'll get it done when we get it done.
yeah, yeah. I always said real life comes first.
It
And
does.
both of us, there's usually a lot of stuff going on in the real world.
Oh God, you're not kidding. Oh my God. Wow, we still managed to make it through 9 years. So, anyways, folks, I'm gonna get going because I really should look at possibly going online and doing some more Apex Legends. I'm at that point where I'm nicely buzzed, and you should get back to studying, my friend.
Ah, yes, a buzzed studying. Well, nothing will help me learn IT systems better than that.
IT? You said IT? I can help you. No, actually, I
I,
don't even want to touch that. I'm on my day
that's
off.
the thing is like even accountants have to not only learn legalities but also now IT systems. So we basically have to be a jack of all trades.
Oh, I feel bad for you. I really do.
Uh, Unfortunately, when video production didn't pan out, this is what I fell back on. But hey, it just shows that behind the scenes, accountants, we're messed up.
And you still love to drink.
In spite of or because of. Yeah.
Either or.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Until next time, I am PK, and this has been Chris, aka Shibby, aka the man behind the mask.
Saying cheers.
Stay frosty, and we will see you next time. Thanks again for joining, and you guys have yourself a wonderful night.